she was like, Josie and Josie and I are going to South Africa.
Uh-huh.
Well, it was the day that we was going to South Africa, and it was me and you going. It wasn't Josie, it was me and you
Oh, she's
going.
been replaced.
Yeah, because you're much kinder to me.
Oh, I can still see her shadow. Get down, get down.
She's not gone yet. The aeroplane had pulled up in front of my mum's house, and we,
as it does,
we was going to get on it. And even though it was pulled up in front of my mum's house, I'd been staying at my mum's, but we hadn't come from there. We'd come from my mum's house that was actually around the corner. It was a bit strange. And my mum drove me round to the aeroplane. And she was like, oh, are you forgetting something? And I was like, oh, I don't think so. And then I was like, oh my God, my passport. I've forgotten my passport. And my mum was like, don't worry. I've got your passport. Don't worry. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much, Mum. Thank you. And then she gave it to me. And when I showed it to the aeroplane man, it was my dad's passport. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then so I said to the aeroplane man, I was like, right, just 5 minutes. I promise you, we live just around the corner. I said to my mum, my passport is on the windowsill. Right, as you go in the front room, it's on the windowsill. You can't don't fuck about. Just go in, get it. We've got the airplane man's waiting for us. So she goes off, and me and you are standing there, and I'm trying to delay this airplane man. And my mum's taking ages to get my pass.
When you're saying airplane man, do you mean the pilot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes. And we were trying to delay him, and he was like, we need to go. We're going to be late. We need to go. And I was like, just 1 minute. She's on her way. And she comes back and she's like, oh, I've got your passport. I've got your passport. So I was like, yes. And I'm getting too excited. I choked. So I showed the pilot my passport, and I noticed that it was a baby one of me. It was an old passport, and it had my baby photo. And I was like, ah. And I said it was really, really faded and really hard to see. And I said to him, will that get me through the airport? And he went, that won't even get you on a train, love. And I was like, oh no. So I said to him, right, I will go back and get my passport. And I said to you, I was like, Kate, hold this plane. Do not let it go. She was standing in front of the plane, but making sure that it didn't go. And I raced off to get. Yeah. This plane was just parked on the drive. My mum's drive's really steep, and it was just parked on the steep driveway.
So I don't know. So we don't know if you came back with your passport. You just left me standing in front of a plane, going, "Stop!"
Yeah.
Did I tell the plane you shall not pass? Because I feel like
probably something you would have done. Yeah,
with my
probably
staff.
would have done that. Yeah.
Morning.
Morning. And I feel really good today.
It's not Sunday. That's why.
Not Sunday. It's a Wednesday. Is it a Wednesday? It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
I read a post yesterday, and it said, not only is it not Friday, it's not even Thursday. I was like, yeah.
I'm working this weekend, so weekends don't really mean anything to me anymore.
No, when I worked in retail, it didn't bother to me whether it was a Friday or not, because I was working on the weekend, so didn't bother me.
Don't bother me none. Well, I'm not working on Sunday. I've got Sunday off. Woo!
Right, shall we crack on with part 2, because I'm dying to know how the rest of the story plays out, because you said in the previous episode how Willie was such a great guy, and
I didn't say that. Listen,
he was such a great guy.
He's so nice. He's such a gentleman.
Stand up, and he actually, for his debut opening, brushed his hair. Such a great guy.
Look, if you want me to be holding planes up for you, you need to treat me right. Right. welcome to part 2.
Is that for me? Ewo.
Yes, for everyone.
Thanks.
It's for our
Thank
vast
you.
audience. I'm going to do a trigger warning for this one. So, trigger warning, there is graphic descriptions of extreme sexual violence, some animal abuse, defilement of many bodies, and there is also a brief mention of rape. So it's going to be a fun episode.
Let's
So
go.
I'd just like to say now, I'm sorry. Right. There's lots of names in this. So
That's because there's lots of victims.
Exactly. I do apologise for my rubbish pronunciation.
That was my chair.
Sure.
My foot was uncomfortable, so I went to move my foot. Honestly, and my chair went back.
Filthy.
And it did a fart noise, and I am sorry, everybody.
Toot.
Was my chair on the floor? Right.
So have you got yourself and your bodily functions under control?
I don't know about that.
No.
Never.
So Lynn Illingson had walked in and found Willie Picton butchering the girl that they'd picked up just hours before. If you remember, that's where we left off in part 1. Vividly, you remember that. And Illingson said that there was a large lump of something on the wooden block, and it had sticky blood-soaked hair hanging from it. And she agreed to keep her mouth shut about what she'd seen that night if Willie paid her some drug money, basically, so that she could go and get high. Because
after seeing that, don't blame her.
I mean, if you saw something like that, I would say anything to not be hanging on a hook next to her.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't be bargaining. I won't say anything as long as you pay me. You're not in a position. You don't have the upper hand there.
Yeah, I know. I guess that was the way their friendship was, though, I suppose. So maybe she was just like, listen, sling me some drug money. Maybe it's more believable. Do you know what I mean? I'm not bothered about that. Just give us some money so that I can go and get high. Of course, I'm not going to say anything. You know me, Willie. And Willie just sort of thought, I mean, it didn't do him justice, because she ends up testifying at his trial. Bit of a spoiler alert there. So I'll start with a timeline so that you can appreciate the true proportions of Willie's absolute heinous business.
Yeah, great one.
Yeah. They all left. They all shot out my head. September 1977, Cindy Beck was last seen. In 1991, the relatives of a growing list of missing women and advocates for sex trade workers organised an annual Valentine's Day remembrance to push for better police protection for sex workers, and it still goes on every year.
Oh, okay.
Don't you know? December 1995, Diana Melnick was last seen. On October 1996, Tanya Hollick was last seen. January 1997, Kerry Koski. June 1997, Helen Hallmark was reported missing. September 1998, Vancouver police set up a team to review the files of the women that had gone missing as far back as 1971. January 99, Jacqueline McDonnell was reported missing. 1999 was Georgina Papin, Brenda Wolfe and Jennifer Firminger was last seen. April 1999, police post a $100,000 reward for any information on the missing women. So by this point, 1999, 2000, that kind of year, the police were really starting to see an issue. coming up, which years too late.
Yeah, only took them 10 years.
Yes. March, however, even though they started with this, it still continued. March 2001, Patricia Johnson was last seen. April 2001, Heather Bottomley is reported missing. August 2001, Serena Abbotsway was reported missing. In September 2001, the police and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police formed Project Evenhand to take over the stagnant police investigation for the missing women, because they just weren't getting anywhere, to be honest. I don't know whether they just weren't getting anywhere or whether they weren't
fully investigating it.
doing it well enough. I mean, they weren't doing it well enough, and even they admit that now. October 2001, Diane Rock is reported missing. November 2001, Mona Wilson. By January 2002, the task force had 50 names on the list. It was in early February 2002 when the police finally managed to get a warrant. 2002.
Yeah, and that's not even in a time where there wasn't any forensics. Like DNA was a thing. It was then.
A thing. Yeah, exactly. So they finally managed to get a warrant to search the Pickton farm. Willie had been one of the many suspects on the case of the disappearing women, but until now, police had failed to find any concrete reason to search the premises. I mean, he's got a frigging pig farm, people. You don't need to be in the police force to find that suspicious. It's a bit of a famous thing, isn't it? Like, never trust anyone who's got a pig farm. Anyway, so now they had their chance. They had a tip-off about a stash of illegal firearms. I mean, part of me wonders if they did actually have a tip-off, or whether they were like, we need to search that farm. Oh, we got a tip. But anyway, they had a tip-off about a stash of illegal firearms, and it gave them what they needed to search the farm.
For the warrant.
What they found was so much worse than they thought. So the police did find the illegal firearms, strangely enough, but they also found a lot of items belonging to several of the missing women. They found purses, IDs. They found an ID that belonged to Heather Bottomley and an asthma inhaler that belonged to Serena Abbotsway. Both brothers were arrested immediately, and David was actually released the next day. A further search warrant was obtained, and by this time the police had turned the place inside out. What they found was the work of the most prolific serial killer that Canada has ever seen. The officers discovered human skulls that had been cut in half like that, with mummified hands and feet bound up inside.
Oh,
I know. Bloody clothes and jawbones with teeth. Photos of the remains of a woman later proved to be Mona Wilson in a rubbish bin. A Spanish fly aphrodisiac, several pairs of handcuffs, night vision goggles, and a .22 revolver with a dildo on the barrel.
Oh.
Prepare yourself. Willie was asked about this, and he said that he used it as a silencer when he used to shoot the pigs.
Right.
Right, this is horrible. I mean, not that the rest of it isn't, but the dildo was found to have the DNA of Picton on it and one of the victims. Forensics said at least one of the women had been shot in the vagina whilst being penetrated with it.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know, we had that discussion. I'm not going to digress too much because I'd like to discuss it at the end, but you discussed like where is that line where they go from citizen to murderer. But then you've also then got
Sadistic
where's that line
bastard.
where they then start
I know.
sticking dildos to guns?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's, you know, like they say with drugs, where they say, you know, oh, marijuana, it's a gateway drug. It leads on to, you know, coke, and then coke leads on to heroin. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe something like that, where, you know, once you've gone over that lip of,
I
I've
don't
kind
think
of started now, and now I'm a bit bored with that, so I'm going to step it up, and I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to.
yeah, but that needs to be in you though, doesn't it? That level of depravity, that need or that want to do, or the
Something that
imagination to do
disgusting. I know.
something like that. That's not just a, oh, I've killed and that wasn't enough actually. I'm going to try something else. That doesn't
Yeah.
occur
I
in
don't.
everybody.
I think, you know, when you were saying about the thing about paedophiles, and you were saying that that's always in you. I do believe that. I do believe that for Willie Picton, he probably always had that side, that dark side, that just wicked, evil,
Mm-hmm.
festering shit that's in somewhere in your psyche, in your soul, whatever it is. But my thing is, when you go from being a normal person to the outside world, you either take that step to then become a murderer, or you don't. And
Yeah.
there's probably billions and billions of people on this planet that have got that dark side in them. But what is it that's stopping that? Is it the love of their family? Is it the fact that they wouldn't be able to let their partner down, or their parents down, or there's something that's holding that back and holding it in? And for other people, they either
Yeah.
don't hold it in, or something happens in their life that then they can't hold it in anymore, and then it comes out, and then they start
Gosh.
killing or
I wish I knew,
maiming.
because this is a conversation that I had with Josie the other day when we was watching about the paedophile, was that I
The
don't know about
paedophile.
you, the one.
The
I don't know
one.
about you, but I understand like that paedophiles are attracted to children, and that's something that they can't help. The same as, you know, being gay or
Mhm.
being straight, that's something that you can't
Yeah,
help.
it's not a
But
choice. Yeah.
it's not a choice, but they know that it's wrong to the extent
Yes.
that they cover up
Hmm.
things. But I think knowing
It's
that it's
choosing to act on it.
that, yeah, but they're not choosing to not get help, or the same as being a murderer. If you've got that in you and you think, God, I'd really love to murder someone,
Oops.
I think if that was me, I'd probably seek help.
Yeah. But yeah, and I do think with that, I do think it is on par with paedophiles, because you don't necessarily choose to be a certain way, or have certain, you can't choose to have certain feelings. You
Mm.
fall in love with who you fall in love with. And I don't, I mean that as a rule for everyone, not paedophiles. But, you know, as in being gay, you know, well, you know, you're, how many times in my life have I heard someone say, yeah, but that's your choice, it's up to you. And they feel like they're saying the right thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's not my choice. If I had my choice, I wouldn't be gay, because it's been, at times, it's been really difficult. And when I was a teenager and I was sort of finding myself, and I used to go to a gay club in Chelmsford, it was scary. You know, it was scary. And this was in the 90s, you know, and it was, we would come out, and there would be groups of people, other kids, teenagers, that just wanted to beat people up, because they knew that it was kicking out time at a gay club
Yeah.
or pub. It wasn't a club. So that's how they got their kicks. You know, they would come down and they would stand outside, and it was scary. And it's like, so for me, when people used to say to me, yeah, but that's your choice, you know, it's no, it's never been my choice. I would never, it would have been much easier for me to have fallen in love with a guy, had a normal existence. I had to hide it from many people because I didn't feel comfortable enough. And even now in this day and age, there will still be people that will assume that Claire is not my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is this your friend? Or even when we're at the hospital, oh, your friend can wait there, and and things like that. And it's like, no, she's not my friend, she's my partner. She actually my fiance now.
Uh-huh.
And things like that. Even when I had they wanted to do an ECG, and she said about, oh, hang on, I just need to pull the curtain and that. And I said, that's my partner. So, and she went, oh, sorry. It happens all the time, but it's not a choice. And I get that with paedophiles. I understand that it's not a choice, but like you said, they know it's wrong. They know it's illegal. There are paedophiles that I've seen, on certain documentaries that have chosen to, hospitalize themselves and have the chemical castration,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And I don't think bad of them because they've never acted on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that must be really hard. It must be really hard to feel something like that. Imagine for us, if you're in love with Josie and I'm in love with Claire, and someone came up to us and said, that's illegal, which in some places it is.
Yeah.
That's illegal. If you act on that, you're going to go to prison. You're breaking the law. Get help. If you feel like that, you get help. I think, do you know what? Good for you. You didn't act on it. When you act on it, you're the scum of the earth.
Yeah.
I can't get past that. You're taking someone else's choice away. Children can't make that choice to be in a sexual relationship because they're children. When people murder and rape and do things like that, it's like that whole thing in it where you hear kids saying, I think most kids go through it, when you say to them, don't do that, and they go, I can if I want. And it's like, no, you can't. You need to get used to this world telling you no, because if you're like, I can if I want attitude, going to end up in prison.
Yeah.
There were several heads and limbs in the freezers, and the deeper the police dug, unfortunately, the more they found. There were bags and bags of blood-stained clothes. There was a big blood-stained mattress. Clumps of hair and small bones were found everywhere at the farm. There were packs of ground meat in the freezers, which, when tested, contained the DNA of several of the victims. So he actually processed. One of the investigators, Daryl Hetherington, kept pigs herself. So she went off to check the animals, and she found that the pigs were without food, without water, and the pens were like literally filling up with muck. One of the sows had recently given birth, but the piglets had slid down into the muddy yard, and they were all dead. There were other pigs in a horrendous state. One was unable to stand because its leg was so infected that it was just rotting away while it was still alive. She called the vet straight away, and several of the pigs had to be put down. The following day, she brought food from her own farm, and fed like the other pigs that were all sort of still relatively okay. But I mean, God bless her. Like, there's all that going on, and she's witnessing one of the most horrific, like, murder crime scenes that they've ever seen. And she was off at her farm getting food and bringing it back for the piggies.
Caring for the piggies.
Oh no, bless her. British Columbia health officials issued an alert for anyone who had meat from the Picton from the Pictons farm.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh God.
And they
A
were,
recall.
yeah, it was. They were told to hand it in
May
to the
contain
police.
human flesh.
Yeah, and it did.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. So people that had been buying meat from the Pictons farm, which they had done for like years and years and years, they'd been fed other meat. Lisa Yields was in absolute disbelief when the news broke. Do you remember Lisa Yields was like another one of Willie's like close friends?
Uh-huh.
They were quite good mates. But she'd worked with Willie for years on the farm, and she'd taken several hundreds of pounds of ground meat every month to distribute to the many meat shops all over the area.
Oh.
And she was just like, Jesus Christ.
Wasn't Lisa the one that said that he had these driving licenses and was like, why have you got these? And she suspected that he was the reason that the girls were missing, and then went, nah, I don't trust the police.
She
I'm
didn't
not going
like
to say
police.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
Does
like
she
the
like
police.
human meat in a ground up beef?
Do you like that, do you, Lisa? But this was when she had the realization that she said she'd eaten a lot of meat from the farm, and it would have had human remains in it, and she thinks that that's how she contracted hepatitis C, which is rank, isn't it?
Yeah, not great.
To get like hep C anyway, but to get it through eating people. Anyway, moving on. Even though some of the meat was obviously like human remains, it's also worth mentioning that even the meat that was pork, it was from pigs that had been fed on human remains.
God. Probably like rotting pigs as well.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I was reading in the book as well. I didn't include it, but Lisa, I think it was Lisa that said that quite often Willie would take pigs and things and other animals like cows and things like that from the meat market, and he would get it for a really good price because he would process meat that was like from animals that had like abscesses and things, like from animals that would quite clearly be diseased and ill with different things, and he would get them cheap, and then he would just process the meat and sell it off like nothing. So there's probably a lot of people that were ill from his meat anyway. The wood chipper at the farm had part of a foot in it, and the pigsties, when dug over, were found to have a lot of teeth and bone fragments in the bottom of the sties. So obviously they'd just been put in the sties, and the pigs had just worked through what they could eat. And a wrist bone was found as a DNA match for Georgina Pappins. More and more pieces were discovered as the police dug. There were toes and heel bones and human ribs. There was a lot of that was found. Many pieces of vertebrae were found, and they showed that they had been cut with a reciprocating saw, showing that the body had been cut in half lengthways whilst hung up, exactly the same way that Picton did with the pigs. Yeah. Picton hid the skulls and hands and feet as they were obviously human, but we can only assume that he passed the arm and leg bones off as animal waste to the rendering plant, as no arm and leg bones were ever found at the farm.
Oh, okay.
None. So they must have been shipped off. Willie Picton was a small-framed man. He weighed about 155 pounds, which is about 11 stone. You know, remember rat face. So he was of a rat frame.
Gaunt.
Yes. And he'd been butchering women for years and just feeding them to the pigs. Oh, it's just sick. Willie Picton had an undercover officer placed in his cell with him after he was arrested.
Yeah, I watched that
Did
video.
you?
I put it on TikTok.
He then confessed to this officer that he'd murdered 49 women, and his biggest regret was that he needed just one more to make it to the big 50.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, he goes on about that a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's
speaking to
really,
that cellmate.
really gutted about that. The officer suggested the best way to dispose of a body was in the ocean, and Willie replied, "I did better than that, a rendering plant." So, I mean, that is what the rendering plant. The rendering plant thought that there was because there was funny chunks of meat in the bits, and they were saying that it's unlikely that they would do that. Picton lured the girls back to his place with the promise of drugs and money. He then raped them and murdered them in the most horrific ways. Some of his victims were stabbed to death. Some were injected with antifreeze. Some were strangled. Others were shot. So he really tried a whole array of murder.
Mm-hmm.
And he said after that he would bleed them and gut them, chop them up and feed them to the pigs. Whatever the pigs left, he would just send to the rendering plant. On 22nd of February 2002, Picton was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, which was Serena Abbotsway and Mona Wilson. On the 2nd of April, 3 more charges were added: Jacqueline McDonnell, Diane Rock and Heather Bottomley. On April the 9th, a 6th charge was added, which was Andrea Josbury, followed soon after by Brenda Wolfe. September 20th, Georgina Papin, Patricia Johnson, Helen Hallmark and Jennifer Firminger were also added. October 3rd, Heather Chinnock, Tanya Hollock, Sherry Irving and Inga Hall were added, bringing the total to 15. On 26th of May 2005, 12 more charges were added, which was Cara Ellis, Andrea Borhaven, Deborah Lynn Jones, Marnie Frey, Tiffany Drew, Kerry Koski, Sarah DeVries, Cynthia Felix, Angela Jardine, Wendy Crawford, Diana Melnick, and a Jane Doe. They don't know who she was, bringing the total of first-degree murder charges to 27. Forensic pathologists spent the next 2 years sifting through 370,000 cubic yards of mud and pig manure to find the pieces of the missing women. The trial began in 2006. The judge decided to split the trial into 6 and 20, with one being dismissed due to lack of evidence, and because they didn't know who this Jane Doe was or when she was killed. So they had zero evidence to prosecute him for that, which is really sad that they just have never found out who she was. And she met this hideous, brutal end to her life, and no one knows anything about her. These 6 were chosen by the judge, as the judge deemed them to be materially different to the other 20. Picton pled not guilty.
Right.
Prick.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, I
don't know how all that happened.
The trial pushed ahead, with the jurors struggling to cope with the horrific stream of photos that were placed in front of them. The judge had to call recess several times because the jurors were just too shaken to continue. On the 9th of December 2007, after 9 days of deliberation, the jury gave its final verdict, and they found Willie Picton guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder. On the 11th of December 2007, Supreme Court Judge James Williams sentenced Willie Picton to life in prison with no eligibility for parole for 25 years. And apparently that's the highest punishment possible.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is. Upon sentencing, the judge said, Mr. Picton's conduct was murderous and repeatedly so. I cannot know the details, but I know this. What happened to them, as in the women, was senseless and despicable. There is nothing I can say to express the revulsion the community feels about these killings. The women who were murdered, each of them, were members of our community. They were women who had troubled lives. Each of them found themselves in positions of extreme vulnerability. They were persons who were in the ugly grasp of substance abuse and addictions, persons who were selling their bodies to strangers in order to survive. As Judge Williams read the sentence, 2 of the female jurors wiped away their tears, and Willie Picton finally showed some emotion. He smirked. You'd punch his face in, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus
I think I'd be like,
Christ.
right, I'm up in your sentence.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay, you like that? Have another one. Yeah, no, I'd be like, okay, if you feel like that, now you're going to do 10 of those years without any lights on. I mean, that's one of the many reasons I'm not a judge.
Yeah.
Oh, you like that? All right, no water. 8 years, no water. Oh, like that? All right, 10. I know, I'd be a rubbish judge. But that's definitely, like we say about like your buttons. You get buttons. People smirking, such a massive button for me.
Well, like when you're trying to tell the kids off and they're like,
any kind of smirking, like I just absolutely hate it. It's a proper button pusher, and it's like people smirk. I'm like, instantly I become really aggressive. I'm like, why are you fucking smirking? Why are you laughing? Oh, I can feel it giving me the rage now. No one's even smirking. It's only me that's smirking.
You've pissed yourself off. I'm trying to now recall back any time that I've ever smirked during the podcast. Yeah, it's not very often I get told off, so it's not like
I don't tell you off.
It's not very often I do anything wrong. So
look, I hold up planes for you, Poddy.
Oh, I know you do.
I know. I wouldn't smirk at you. There were numerous appeals after this, but by August 2010, this is all like, I think it feels like recent. I
know. When I was like looking it up and stuff after the first one, I was obviously Googling, and it said like the 2000s. I was like, what?
I know.
The 2000s seem like yesterday, don't they? Not like 20 years ago. They seem really, really close. So all of these murders, like serial killers, generally I associate with the 80s.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I do too, but a lot of them are a lot more recent. I mean, when I talk about like 2001, 2002, that feels recent to me, but the 90s feel recent to me as well. I think the 90s, that's not that long ago.
It was.
I know. But I think like that about Channel 4. I remember when Channel 4 came out.
Oh,
we only had BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV. That was it. And the telly went off at midnight.
Oh.
And so you'd put it on and it would say like, this ends our broadcast day. Yeah. And then it would play a little tune and then it beep, and then it would be like that for, I don't know, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it would go to snow.
Yeah. I remember in the mornings they didn't really play anything. Programs used to start at like 7 or something.
Yeah. And then they brought out Channel 4 and I was like, ooh, a new channel. It was a bit of a risky channel.
Channel 5 was a big deal though, wasn't it?
I'd kind of got over it. I'd already witnessed the beginning of Channel 4 and I was like, ooh, a new channel. So by the time Channel 5 was out, I was like,
just bring on Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when Netflix was just DVDs and they used to post the DVD out to you.
Yeah, gosh,
so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to have that, posted DVDs. Anyway, we have digressed.
Yes. So there was numerous appeals after, but by August 2010, British Columbia Crown officials ruled that there would be no trial for the remaining 20 women's deaths because Picton was already serving 6 life sentences consecutively. So
Yeah, but it's not enough.
I know. But the reason that they did that was because they wanted to spare the families the like traumatic
trial and
and the thing is that was like one of the most traumatic trials that had gone on, and that was 6 of the women. You imagine doing that for 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it
it's
damaged a lot of people.
Yeah, it was, and the jurors as well. It would have been horrendous for the jurors to go through that. It was bad enough to do it for the 6. But also, that aside, they also wanted to save the court system the money, because with the 6 women's trial that they had, it cost just over $102 million for those 6 women. And I think
crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. So you think, even if it was just that again, it's such a lot of money, and he's never coming out of prison.
Yeah.
You know, he's 6 life sentences he had to do consecutively. So that, and then he would have to wait like 25 years before even being considered for parole. So,
yeah,
you know, I guess the judges are like, do you know what? We need to do a little bit of damage limitation on all sides.
Mm-hmm.
The police have apologised unreservedly to the families of the victims and the local community for their sluggish response and failure to see the monster in their midst. Today, Picton is 73 years old, and he is serving life in Port Cartier maximum security prison in Quebec. David Picton denied all knowledge of his brother's crimes, and according to reports, he was seen in the downtown Vancouver area where his brother found his victims in 2011. But his exact whereabouts remains a mystery. And when I was researching some of this on the internet, I actually saw that there was a poster, not a missing poster, but it was like a missing poster with a picture of Dave Picton saying there's been reports that Dave Picton has been seen in this area. If you see this man, call this number and all that. So everyone, because we don't know, do we? He could have been involved in a lot of it. He was a spiteful git.
Yeah.
Dave Picton. So who's to say that he wasn't involved in it?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he's got the potential to continue it on.
Yeah. Yeah, who's to say that he didn't even know? He must have known. A foot sticking out of the bloody grinder.
Exactly. If the police can go in there and search around a few bits,
the
and
evidence
go,
straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was
like carcasses hanging up, and
skulls, feet, hands.
Yeah.
All stuffed in freezers. There was heads. No, I don't believe that he didn't know anything about it. So, yeah, of course, people are going to want to know his whereabouts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's in and amongst your community, you're going to want to know. Dave and his sister Linda brought a lawsuit against the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, for damages to the property. The RCMP.
The audacity!
I know. Apparently, the Mounties disrupted, killed, and destroyed various plants.
Yeah, but do you know why? Do you know why they did that?
Yeah.
Because your brother was murdering peeps.
Yeah, they were killing, disrupting, disturbing, and destroying people.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so they said that they upset the vegetation and the fish in the pond.
Yeah, I can imagine they were heartbroken.
Yeah, I bet they were gutted about all of that. They also stated that the RCMP had demolished, removed, destroyed, and rendered uninhabitable various buildings and equipment on the property. To this day, this matter has not been resolved.
Yeah, I don't suppose it would.
The province has a 10 million lien on the property to secure the recovery of legal expenses relating to the Picton trial. I'm not surprised if it cost them like 100 and something million. Today, the farm has been completely dismantled, and all that remains on the site is a few mounds of earth with a chain link fence around it. friends and family of the deceased women would like to see it turned into a memorial park, but currently the only residents there are Canadian geese. What do you reckon? I need to get your thoughts on it, because
I'm a little bit fuming about the brother and sister and that they'd have the audacity to try and claim damages to the property. That's
they're just those kind of people, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think they're just somewhat of the ridiculous is an understatement.
Yeah. I reckon, here goes.
Go on, I'll have a drink.
That, when we was talking about, having that in you, that all of this hatred,
Urges.
I don't know what to call it.
Evil.
Yeah, but I also feel like it probably stemmed from when his cow got murdered and hung up on the hook. I think that's traumatized him from a young age, and because trauma can change the chemistry in the brain, can't it?
Yes,
So
and
it
does so at a young age, doesn't it?
At a young age, I think that was a very traumatic event for him, seeing that and witnessing that, and then being at a young age as well, taught how to slaughter the pigs. That all kind of desensitizes you to what he's doing, basically. So to do that to something else wouldn't be any different. So I think that it stemmed from that, from when his cow was murdered and hung up, and he's witnessed that. I think that's why then he did the same thing to his victims.
I think a lot of it is as well because he could.
Yeah.
Like in his head, because from all reports of like people that knew him, like they'll say, no, he did genuinely try and, get these girls cleaned up and sorted out and that. And I think maybe somewhere along the road, he's thought in his own head, they're a lost cause. And then he had all the means of doing that, didn't he? Without getting caught. I mean, he did it a lot. He did like 49 times.
Yeah.
He killed someone. He did what he wanted to do, with them. He killed them. He processed them exactly like he would with the pigs.
Yeah.
He only had small bits to like hide, if you like. So he only had to hide the head, hands, and feet.
He didn't really do that, did he?
No.
He stored them. He didn't hide them.
Yeah. But, and then he would give what he gave to the pigs to finish off. Probably saved himself money on pig food as well.
Yeah,
and then thought, I'll take the rest to the rendering plant, and then it's gone and done, and no body, no crime, And I think after he did that a few times, he probably thought it maybe gave him a sense of like power. He must have had some kind of enjoyment out of it when he did it.
Yeah, that's the thing is with having too much power and like too much money and things like that, is that you will never get what you want. It's the same as I watched a documentary about fame yesterday, and it said that people want to be famous, but when they acquire that, it's not what they want. So they're always striving to achieve something, and that's why they've got all this money, and then they go down the route of drugs and things like that, because they're still not getting what they think that they want or what they need. So I think it's a similar thing. And that in the previous episode you said that he just wanted to be normal, and he kept saying to people, I want a normal life. And I think that's because he knew inside himself that he wasn't normal. So he wanted to be normal and do normal things because he didn't feel normal.
Yeah.
And then he finally relented to the fact that it's never going to happen, so I'll just do what I want to do. Yeah.
But he also did it in secret. So it was a bit like his dirty secret, wasn't it? Like even when he had Ellingson, when he had his friend there, and he was like, yeah, let's go and get Hooker. And she was like, all right, can we get some drugs as well? And he was like, yeah, sure. She went off and went to her room, I don't know, slept, had a nap, got high, whatever it was she was doing. And he thought, well, I've got Hooker now, so I'll go and do it, you know. But his first reaction when she came to the barn and was like, oh my God, he was like, be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew
But
what he was doing
he
was
didn't,
wrong.
he didn't ever try and like include someone in on it or anything. You know, it was like it became his enjoyment, I think.
Yeah.
I think he just enjoyed doing it. And I actually don't think he was aware that he was trying to get to the big 50. I don't believe that. I don't think he would have had any idea of how many women he killed.
Yeah.
And I think it was when they said, you are going to be like, we've found evidence of like 49 women.
I
He
think
probably
they
thought, I'm going to be in prison, so I may as well look like a, you know, badass.
Yeah, they'd put 49 names to the people or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't understand it because I don't think that.
No, it's
that way.
It's definitely perplexing to try and get inside the mind of someone that can do like the worst things.
Yeah, that level of
imaginable.
depravity as well.
Yeah.
And the complete disregard to the body.
Yeah.
And
that life. I do my own head in thinking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because you feel like you go around in circles and you think.
Because I always think, I genuinely believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I do believe that. But when it comes to things like that, like murder and stuff, I always think, why? What was gained out of that? What was the reason behind that? Why did that happen? And what did the universe, what was it trying to tell us? And you
do feel like that. Yeah, what's your point?
Yeah, what are you trying to teach everybody? I don't get it.
Don't know.
Do you?
Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
We don't get it. We don't understand, but we would love to hear some other perspective on it. Because I don't understand it. Let's get inside a killer's head and just see, because let's face it, that's why we're all here. That's why we're all listening and talking, because we just feel some sort of urge to get inside the mind of.
Yeah, we're fascinated by things that you don't understand. I think that's why everybody goes, oh, you're watching serial killer documentaries and reading books on child abuse and things like that. And it's it's strange to say that you enjoy watching those things or you enjoy reading about those things, because it's a strange thing to enjoy, but it's a fascination because you don't understand it. So you've got to consume all of this information to be able to, I think as humans,
get some kind of understanding. Yeah,
we're programmed to try and understand things.
Absolutely.
So you're not weirdos. It's a normal human.
I mean, that's a bold statement.
It depends to what level you've enjoyed this story.
Yes. What level weirdo are you?
Let us know. If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Who are you seeing?
She's going to meet a boy for lunch.
A very gay boy. Oh, I'm meeting a gay boy.
Yeah. And we're going out with him and his husband tonight to bingo, aren't we?
Well, that's very gay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, they're our gay couple friend, aren't they? You are our other gay couple friends.
I was going to say, thanks.